Hey, everybody, you're listening to and possibly watching the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
And we are your hairy, heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy homo to listen in or possibly stream in. I'm calling you from the even bluer state of New Jersey.
Even bluer.
What a night. What a wonderful night Tuesday was. And we got the results before like 10:30, you know.
Yeah, it was surprisingly quick. I was really shocked. I was
well, it was
I was at a wedding on Tuesday night. You know? Yeah, I was at a wedding on Tuesday night, and like I just happened to check my phone after 8:00, and I was like, "Oh wow, that was quick."
I like good news at a sensible hour. This is a lot of fun.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Oh God, it felt so good to like hope scroll instead of doom scroll on the phone that night. It just felt so good.
It was definitely a different feeling.
Yeah, let's keep this good news going. Let's keep it going. The good vibes up. Oh man, so in the interim since we last were together, I had some cool concert events. I went to see Andy Bell from Erasure on Halloween. Great venue. I'm so going back to that venue. And then on Saturday, I drove down to Baltimore for my friend Joe's 50th birthday party. And Joe's very connected. He used to be, I believe he was front of house at the 930 Club before he got into politics. And there's a couple of 9/11 documentaries he's interviewed. And he's now in the, what do you call it? Help me.
I need more context.
What do you call it? Jesus Christ.
You said the thing related to politics.
Think of the word. People that get paid to influence people on
influencers.
DC. No, in DC.
Lobbyists.
Jesus Christ. Back in St. Olaf. Oh man. So anyway, he had a house party. There was a concert, and Luna played, and it was just a great night. It was just a really great night. So I'm back from that. So I know awesome. Steve, you mentioned you went to a kind of cool wedding, and Caleb, it looked like you had some like family get together or something that looked cool. So it was a quiet Halloween. Because I know we had Halloween over the intervening time. You had a party. I basically finished my 31 days of horror movies without missing one day, which was wonderful. And then slept a lot afterwards. But yeah, that was my excitement. And then of course the wedding that we had this past Tuesday was Viking themed, and so we actually did have to dress up. And now I have something I can wear at Renfest, which is nice. If I go to the Renaissance Fair, I can I can garb it up. But it was a lot of fun. There's actually a castle like 20 minutes away from here. I had no idea.
Mm-hmm. So that's cool.
Yeah. I've never been to a Ren Fair.
I haven't either. You should try actually, and I want to. Like, that's actually something I think I would enjoy. Like, weirdly, I've got a friend who does like all the Scottish Highland games, and I could very much get into that. Like, it's like, I think that's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So Halloween night, I actually went to my husband was out of town all weekend. He went down to South Arkansas. He has a 91-year-old grandmother that whenever he gets the opportunity to, he goes and just stays with her for the weekend and hangs out and, just takes care of her. And so I, applaud him for that. He's a good grandson. Because we have dogs, I don't get to go on those trips. So I stay home with the pups. But on Halloween night, I joined a bunch of friends. I have this really cool little group of local people who are, they're law school friends, but we're all kind of like the queer punk rock, just weirdo law students that, just we're all doing different things. And so we're all pretty tight knit. And so we had a Halloween party in costumes. So I went to that, and it was just somebody's apartment, and we did karaoke with the entire building was there. So this apartment, basically, it's like 4 different large apartments in one. Everybody was there. We could be as loud as we wanted to. So food, karaoke, drinks, a lot of fun. They were talking about it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm coming. I don't have a costume, not." And my friend Audrey was like, "Caleb, just wear leather. You're fine." So I did. So I just wore my leather. I had have a leather gladiator get up that I wore, and that was my Halloween costume. And then, spent the weekend just doing weekend stuff. So
you like the gladiator movies, Johnny?
Go ahead. No, I was just mentioning the Andy Bell concert was on Halloween, and I was surprised like no one was dressed up there.
Yeah,
really.
But there was an even gayer event next door with Sasha Velour. And I did see people, Halloweened up for that. At least I hope it was Halloween costume.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Sasha Velour performance, you will have a lot of people who just normally dress like that will go, because she is fantastic. So
it's like going to a Gaga show. Like it doesn't have to be Halloween. There's going to be people in Halloween costumes.
Oh yeah,
or just costumes. Yeah,
excited to be there and show off creativity. Yeah. It's been like I was surprised with the lead up to Halloween this year. I was expecting it to be like really pretty wild, but thankfully it was nice and quiet for me. So
it went by quick.
It did go by very quick.
Halloween just went by really quick, and I was hiding from. I'm an exception. I know people will say like, "Oh, we never get kids." Like I get tons of kids. I get tons of them. They're incessant. And I left for the concert like about 4:30 or so. I wanted to get dinner in the area and make sure I had parking and all that shit. And at least 4 kids rang the doorbell before then. Before I left.
Wow, that's early.
4:30?
Yeah.
Who's afternoon trick or treating?
Little kids.
Go getters.
Oh, kids. Yeah, like the little 5 and 6 year olds.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. I gotcha.
We
there was one year I did a count and we had 74 kids.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. We never get anything because we're really far back from the road, which is fine. So I just turn off the lights and watch horror movies and sort of like keep an eye out for flashlights coming down. But we're pretty.
We live up on a hill. No one comes and rings the doorbell or knocks.
Like and only the Jehovah's Witnesses.
We're like 25, you're 25 feet from the road, so it's not far. It's just on a hill, and everybody's like, "Yeah, no, we're good." They don't have decorations up. We're good. That's a trek. Yeah. I keep saying, like, every year I say the same thing. Like, I'm gonna actually plan, get candy, and just like get a costume, and then go sit at the edge of my driveway on the street with with the dogs or something like that, and let people come up and say hi. And I just never do. Just haven't had that happen.
Yeah, and this was a good thing with the diet to like not have the candy around because like even when you like do that shit where you're like, I'm gonna buy stuff I'd never eat, you still end up eating.
Oh, you'll eat it, yeah.
Buckets of candy corn,
like Almond Joy or some shit.
And see, I love all the joys.
You should be trick or treating in my place because
I'll be your best. Yeah, the only I can't do that. I'll just be handing out like I don't know, like okra. Just guarantee I won't
okra for you, Almond Joy for me.
Yeah, like I'll trade you.
There's a really funny video they had of this guy picking out all the Reese's peanut butter cups from his kids candy. He's like, "Oh no, that's poison. Oh look, there's more poison.
There's drugs in there.
You can't eat this. I'm sure this is poison.
It's really filled with razor blades.
It was really cute. And look, it's connected to a Ryobi saw. Yeah.
Well, cool.
I guess we can go right into the comic talk because there wasn't any substantial news or anything.
No, I mean, again, it was quiet. It was kind of like a lead down. The big conventions are done, and for the most part, I think.
Baltimore happened. Like that usually signals the end of the season.
It is kind of the
I mean, there's some smaller cons, but in terms of the ones that'll have like, A-list creators and all that. Like Baltimore tends to be the last one, at least in this current calendar that we're operating on. So no big news. That's not a bad thing. There was other stuff sucking up the news cycle, and if you're wired like these other two gentlemen and I are, Tuesday was a very good night. A very hopeful night. Yeah.
Weirdly enough, Winston-Salem has no elections in off years. So basically, anything that's an odd numbered year, there's no offices, local or otherwise, that we would vote on.
Yeah. We didn't have anything here.
Yeah, and I know, Steve, you've been a poll worker many times. My friend Beth said that it was really enjoyable being a poll worker on Tuesday. That there was just a vibe about things, and she's in an area. She's our neighbor, but she works polls over where she used to live, where she grew up, which is a bit more like Shoremaga. And she was saying like they just didn't come out, or if they did, they didn't, they weren't loud about it. So
that's my experience in off years in Charlotte, because Charlotte, of course, does have voting every year. We reelect, we would reelect city council, and this was a mayor year, all that stuff. It was usually really quiet in off years, unless there was some vibe to be had, like some really important thing that's going on politically. So
that's the way it is most like on off years. There's not a lot of turnout, which is unfortunate, right? Like, I mean, those are important races that are still happening, right? Those are
the people that make all the decisions for your day-to-day stuff. Like, federal, big deal. State, sure, really huge deal. But your day-to-day,
look at Pennsylvania, and they had huge turnouts. For what was going on there, which is much more along the lines of off year. And just some genuine surprises in areas like Bucks County and Harris County.
Oh, Mississippi!
Very surprising.
Really, biggest surprise for me was Mississippi.
Yep.
They broke the supermajority. Now that may not mean a lot to a whole lot of folks, but I live in a state that has a GOP supermajority. All branches of government are controlled by the GOP, and it's hard, right? And so for the fact that Mississippi, which is typically blood red, and does a lot of voter disenfranchisement, where they were able to break for all intents and purposes, break that supermajority and flip seats. That's a big deal. So that goes just like, regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, obviously we have our proclivities, but that is grinding, right? That's grassroots movement. That's people doing the work. So that is not just folks like hearing things on CNN or MSNBC or things and showing up. Those are folks in your neighborhood who are putting in the work and who are going out and knocking on doors and pounding the pavement and doing that real hard work of organizing. And shout out to those people. Toast to them, because that's who's doing the important work. I think
and bless those Kentuckians' hearts who were so sad that they weren't able to vote against
Mondami.
Yeah.
What do you mean we can't vote for the mayor of New York?
I thought he was America's mayor. Oh wait, no, that was only Giuliani.
That's coming.
It's already started. I've seen several people are using that phrase.
Yeah.
Which, look, I hope he does well, right? And I'm the Debbie Downer in most situations, just because I don't do the way my brain works. But I do think it's not an insult to say there is a little bit of worry because of the lack of actual experience in administrative politics, right? He's been in Mondami was on their version of the city council and stuff like that, so he's got that work. But as far as being an executive or something like that, there's not a lot there. I think he's going to do a good job. I hope he does a good job.
And he, at least in terms of the transition team, he has surrounded himself by
strong people.
Strong people.
Yeah.
And, he does strike me as somebody that if he doesn't know about something, he's going to learn about it inside out. And if it's something that He's not going to be the smartest person about. He's going to bring in the smartest people he can for that. So
yeah,
so
I agree. I think that's
I don't think he's going to accomplish certain things just because of the New York's still an old town, I mean, there's still a lot of old money and old norms, but just how much he went right out to the people. I mean, the footage of him at the clubs, 2 nights before the election, and going to clubs at 1 a.m.
And not just clubs, gay bars. Like
yeah.
Like that's cool.
Yeah. And there were even very to the left candidates in the past who never would have gone into a gay bar and would have said "my friends."
Well, yeah. I mean, probably not until I don't think anybody would have even campaigned in any gayborhood period until probably the mid to late 90s, unless they were really, really left of.
The first one I can remember is probably Dinkins, but it felt like cursory,
Yeah. Hello, gays.
Dinkins,
yeah.
But De Blasio did. I mean, De Blasio
did. But yeah, I mean that's 2010s.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, right. Thing. And then Nancy Pelosi finally announced her retirement. Get some new people in there. Just very well accomplished.
And there's a lot of good people lined up already.
In
that corridor. So, all right. So, what do you want to talk about first? I have a book that I think is ideal to talk about first.
That sounds like the one I've got to talk about first. Then.
Yeah, it's a crossover. So I'm going to reach back here and bring up the first book we're going to talk about. Now, I think this book had just come out during our last show, but I had not received it. I don't think. I may have had it, but in this climate, crossovers are still few and far between.
Right.
And it's sad that it took an event like George Perez's passing to kind of light the sparks again between DC and Marvel, but it did. And CB Cebulski and Marie Javins been very public about saying hey, we worked great together on that. It's become like a very like a budding friendship between the two of them, which sounds sweet. And the first fruits of that is Deadpool Batman #1. So, Steve, if you can put up a book, because this is a foil cover and it's shiny and it's really hard to show there. Now, there were like 1 million variant covers for this. Some of them were linked to stories in the book and some weren't. Steve, if you can go to the next one, some of them were tributes to other past covers. Like there's this really nice homage to Crisis on Infinite Earth 7. If you go to the next, which I hope is in line here, this is the actual cover of my foil cover here. And you'll see it's not just Deadpool and Batman, but it's also Joker. So I'm going to go through the Deadpool Batman story, but the real highlights for me were 2 of the backup stories in here, which you never had before in the crossovers. Whoever had the idea to do these smaller backup stories where other characters cross over, chef's kiss on that. But if we go through here, the story opens up. And it's worth saying that the writer was Zeb Wells and the artist here is Greg Capullo. And we basically have a reenactment of the first few panels from Detective Number 27, where it is, Batman, Bruce Wayne thinking about, things at this point he's actually kind of established as Batman, but if you remember the classic origin story, it was the bat flying through the window, crashing through the window, that set him off on his journey as Batman. We don't have that here. What do we have? We have Deadpool. Okay. If Deadpool crashes over, and Deadpool has been hired to it's unclear at first. So he initially comes into Wayne Manor, kind of with some very funny lines, kind of roast Bruce for being a billionaire. But he needs to track down Batman. And where do you go? You follow the bat signal, and the bat signal takes him to Commissioner Gordon. And these two meet for the first time. And there's some very funny dialogue as their conversation is, progressing forward. Another entity steps into the mix, and it's Batman. So I'm not going to go through the minutia of the detail, but well, there you go, Joker there, Brady. So initially there was a worry that in one of the caves in the Gotham City area that the Joker was stockpiling, his gas, and it was going to go through. It's a very simple mechanism, but it also turns out that Deadpool was actually in the employ of Joker. But Batman knew this. He's smart, he's able to do that. And he made the calculated guess that he's going to get Deadpool on his side. So Joker, when he sees that this shit is going down, at this point, Batman's already been captured. You can see like the bat in the pole there. Steve, if you go to the next image here, Joker injects Deadpool with his venom, the Joker gas, in an injection form. But the thing is, Wade has healing abilities, so it makes him even more annoying and more talkative. And this is something the Joker was not expecting. So very comic booky, I would say by the numbers story. They leave it so that Deadpool is still in Gotham at the end of the story, which is going to lead into Batman Deadpool #1. But as I mentioned before, the thing that really stood out to me were the backup stories. Now, the first one, this was an absolute gem. Chip Zdarsky writing with Terry Dodson on art, and Rachel was doing the inks. Both the Dodsons were involved, and this involves the meeting of Diana, Wonder Woman, and Steve Rogers, Captain America. It's towards the end of the war. They've both been so busy fighting this war that they've never crossed paths before. And Steve, if you can go to the next page. Nope. There should be other images. That was it. Okay, then I'm gonna have these were the images that I couldn't send over. So it turns out that Steve has Hitler by the neck, and he's gonna kill him. He has a gun in his hand, and he's thinking of Bucky. He's thinking of everything that the Red Skull has pulled down. He's thinking about all the friends he is that he has had over the past 4 years that have lost their lives because of this demon. And he's ready to kill him, and Wonder Woman convinces him not to do it. Telling him that we can, telling Steve that we can take him to Paradise Island. We can make sure he has a trial. The world needs to see this man on trial. And it was Diana dialogue to a T. And as far as I know, apart from that Justice League miniseries, Chip's never written Diana before. And it was perfect dialogue. Absolutely.
That's cool.
Perfect. So this also begins a friendship between Steve and Diana that goes on for many years. And years later, when she's ready to slice Maxwell Lord's neck and break his neck, when whatever the equivalent of Infinite Crisis was, in terms of this melded world where the DC and the Marvel characters both co-inhabit, some really nice flashback moments involved with that as well. When Steve came out of the ice, it was Diana and Superman and Iron Man and Batman were all there to greet him. Is really sweet moments like that. So anyway, Steve is the one that convinces her, hey, this was 40 years ago. You told me not to do this. I'm telling you right now, you can't do this. You can't go this route. And we see some other events that transpire and how they reacted. Both of them were on the same side in terms of Civil War, which was a nice moment there with the histories of those two characters. Sadly, we do see the end of their relationship, but it's steeped in justice, and it's a really effective 8-page story. It was really nice. And then for something that was really cute, if you go to the next one, Steve, and let me just make sure I got the team right on this one. This is written by Kelly Thompson with art by Gyuhiru. And this is a crossover story involving Crypto and Jeff the Landshark. And it's a very simple story. Crypto is up at the Fortress of Solitude in the Arctic. He's playing by himself, and he's playing volleyball effectively by himself. And he's hitting the ball, and it turns out it does get returned at one point, and it's from Jeff. And Steve, if you can just go to the next few images here. There's another one here where the dialogues are all like woofs and borks and murs. There's one line of dialogue from Supergirl, but it's just the two of them playing a game and becoming friends, and it's just so sweet for
that is adorable.
Yeah. There also was a backup written by Kevin Smith. With two characters. He's very well known for having an association with the past Daredevil and Green Arrow that was drawn by Adam Kubert. It did felt like the writing on that was a little rushed, like make a deadline and it fits, but still there were some really nice moments in that. And there's 3 other very short backup stories, but I know people are kind of suspect about crossovers. There's only really been one where there's been a canonical factor to it in terms of what Busick has done with some of the crossover with the DC versus Marvel crossover. There were things that followed that in his work and Trinity and some other stuff, but this was it was fun. It was a lot of fun, but for the backups, I mean, chef's kiss on this. And I'm not sure if they've announced what the backups are in Batman Deadpool #1, which is coming out this month. But if they're anywhere near as strong as those 2 that I've mentioned, get this on the first day.
So -- I will spend money to look at Terry and Rachel Dodson draw Diana. Those images were just stunning. Those are that is almost like the perfect artist for that character.
Yeah.
I was sitting here thinking as you were talking about this, I did not pre-order any of these, and I should have. But I wonder, because I read most of my DC on the app, on DC's app. So I wonder, because this is a crossover, if they are going to be on DC's app or Marvel's app, or if they're splitting them. I wonder how that's working.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that is going to play out, because this issue was actually published by Marvel, and then the next one is from DC, and that's that's been the detente for many years in the past. But I hope they are. I hope they are on both. I definitely think Batman Deadpool will be on that platform. I hope both.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I've seen any other crossovers from antiquity.
I haven't, no, but I haven't really looked for them either.
Yeah.
So. Did you say crossovers from antiquity?
Yeah.
The ancient times, long ago.
The first crossover at this point was 51 years ago.
We need to make that a segment. That needs to be its own thing.
Welcome to the crossovers from antiquity.
Once a year, we get together. Just this is a new thing. We're gonna make this happen, right? We get together. We all wear smoking jackets. There's a fire in the background. We have a pipe, and we talk about crossovers from antiquity.
Yeah,
right. And they have to be at least 30.
Those momentary flashes when it would not be a Spider-Man team up, but a Human Torch team up. Yeah, okay.
But not any Human Torch. Toro. Yes, Toro.
No, Toro was never involved. Stupid.
Don't be hating on Toro. That guy.
I love Toro.
Poor Toro.
Well, I fucked up his biography the last time.
Oh my god!
I totally forgot about a major
story.
So
is Toro like the Donna Troy of the Marvel universe? Or?
No, that's Bucky.
Yeah.
Oh, Bucky, I guess Bucky. Would be.
Toro's maybe like Impulse. I don't know. Like yeah.
You know who? Toro would be like. I'm just trying to think of like
not Speedy
Manhunter.
Okay,
Toro would kind of be like.
Oh yeah, that would
like some shit goes down later. Yeah, and it's not.
Well, I was thinking like he's not Speedy because Speedy was way more popular and stuff than Toro ever was. But Marvel doesn't have a lot of those sidekicks that ever gained popularity, so it's really hard to make that kind of comparator.
So we're gonna stick with Big Two right now, and we'll stick with Marvel. And I know that Caleb, excuse me,
hi,
has a couple of issues of Avengers he likes to talk about.
I do. I got caught up on the most recent run of the Avengers. Actually, I read 28, 29, and 30 because that's what I've got here. But
apologies.
Well, no, so I'm only talking about 29 and 30. So 28.
My apologies.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, 28 wrapped up just a little series, little 4 or 5 issue blip in there before we spilled over into 29 and 29 and 30. So what I want to say about this book is this book is not, it's not making people run out and buy it, right? It is not the best book on the shelves by any means. It's not a bad book by any means. On some level, this book is comfort food, right? This book is it's not grandiose. It's just a really good story. Is it something I'll remember in 20 years? Maybe not. But if I happen to pull it back out, I could reread this and be like, yeah, that was good comics. I'm good with that, right? It was very straightforward. It's fun superhero stories. It's comfortable. It feels like an Avengers story. And it's just there's a fine line sometime between like you'll read something and you go, oh, that was mediocre, right? But you read something and you're like, oh, that was good. Like that's fine. I enjoyed that, and I don't know what that line is. This is definitely on the. This is not. I wouldn't call this mediocre, right? Even though it kind of is, but it's just kind of good fun comics. So 29, where this starts off is all throughout this series, which has been, all spearheaded and written by Jed MacKay, but these 2 issues in particular are drawn by Farid Karami with Federico Blee doing the colors. Really, really excellent work. But what I like about this is throughout this entire series, Jed MacKay has been looping in and playing with these different just big themes and moments throughout Avengers history. And it all feels big, but in that way that, Avengers, like, I don't know, 322 felt big, right? So it's just kind of a standout thing. But what we really see start off in 29 is MacKay is kind of pulling all the threads together. All of this, they've been dealing with Kang the Conqueror for a long time. They've been dealing with all of these external threats that are coming in. We saw the Ashen Combine get created in some of the last, first of this. And it all culminates now to where MacKay he was like, hey, we figured out what's happened. We figured out why we're having this. And it's really because there's this villain named Meridian. I don't really know how you pronounce his name. Myrdin. Murden. He be murdering people. And so he's kind of spearheading what's happening here. All of the big bad, and they're after him, and they're trying to figure out what he's trying to do, what his machinations are. And of course, it's to end the world or do something major, but they really can't figure out why. And he's looking after something. We find out that he's looking for something called the Grail. And throughout this, entire 30 issues, they've been trying to figure out what he's doing and what he's after. All of a sudden, Vision, who is, he's part of this main team, he's running algorithms, doing programs in his head, and it clicks for him. And he's like, I know what he's looking for. We've got to go talk to Reed Richards. And so the Avengers team, who, by the way, this team is Captain Marvel, Captain America, Scarlet Witch, the Vision, Storm is on this team from the X-Men, Iron Man, and then Black Panther. And so Vision's like, yeah, we got to go figure this out. And the way we do that is talking to Reed Richards. And so they go to Reed, and Vision is just talking to him. He's like, I've figured out, like, we've seen at least 2 major threats come after the world. Right, we've seen almost apocalyptic events, and we've had to stop them, and they're all tied in together. And how they are tied in together and why they're tied in together through this Murden guy is something you did read. And Reed's like, what are you talking about? Well, there's a piece of the universe that's missing. It's not there. It can't be found. And Vision's like, I know what happened. This actually happened. None of us could remember this, but it happened because of what you did in Secret Wars. And he's just like, what? He was like, what? You're not supposed to know about that. And he was like, yeah, there were these incursion events, and we know, I know what happened during the Secret Wars, and I know that you put those worlds back together. But Reed, you are always after something, right? You've always got to have a problem to solve, a thing to work towards. You can't, you would be miserable with perfection. So you left a chink in the armor, so to speak, right? You left a hole in the universe, and that's what this is. It is a problem that can't be solved. But if Murden is able to tap into it, if he's able to figure this out, then he's going to break the world and break reality as we know it. And basically you'll have another incursion event, right? It's going to, it's almost to, as a DC comparator, it's going to like open up a hole into the source wall and allow dimensions to just suck into each other. And they can't allow that. They've got to stop it. And so they're trying to figure out how. And of course, all of this is back-ended by regular superhero problems where Murden has created this team of analogs, so to speak, for the Avengers, these Twilight Court, similar to the Ashen Combine that we just saw, which is also similar to Thanos's little horde of people, very, very much playing with similar ideas, kind of rinse and repeat in that regard. But all of these bad guys are set up to fight the Avengers because they're analogs. And so what they end up having to do to go find the Grail to keep it out of Murden's hands is they've realized that they're going to have to go through it, right? They're going to have to find a way to go through the holes in reality and through dimensions and get to the place where Reed has left an opening, right? Reed left an incomplete moment in reality to do that. I mean, big, very high-end stuff, but McKay is not... This is going to sound kind of like an insult, and I don't necessarily mean it to be. McKay is not Hickman. McKay knows he's not Hickman. And so he's taking this kind of high-level stuff, but he's telling it in a way that he can control it. And it feels natural. It feels good. And so they do that. And to embark on that adventure, how they have to end up doing that is... Well, number one, they call, sorry, bad radio. Number one, they call in some help. They're like, all right, we've got to go on an adventure. We're going to be off planet, off dimension, off reality for a little bit. We need somebody to do our job. Well, who else do we call? Well, they call the X-Men. So the X-Men roll in issue 30, and they're having this conversation, and Storm's part of the team. So there's this kind of connection there. And they explain to him what's going on, right? They've got to go stop this, again, extinction level event that's going to destroy everything. They want to know if the X-Men mind staying out on the Impossible City, which is this floating city that the living city that they've taken up on instead of Avengers Mansion and stuff like that. And the X-Men are like, yeah, we're good with that. We're the X-Men. We can handle anything. You guys go and go figure this out. And they do. Well, number one, before they get to that point, though, they also have to realize that Murden is a player in a game. And remember, we're looping in these big events, kind of like Secret Wars. And so what we also find out behind the scenes is that Murden is doing this because he's made a wager. Well, who would he make a wager with but with the Game Master that we saw from Avengers No Road Home, a while back, a really, really good event. And so he's created this wager and found a way to beat the Game Master and take him off the board. So McKay's playing with all these major events that we've seen. So issue 30, he's got the X-Men babysitting, home sitting for him, watching everything. And they go into this vortex, this nether reality that is going to get them to the place that is not supposed to exist. And it is the places that we saw in Secret Wars, right? You can see on the cover, if Steve, if you don't mind to flip back to the cover of issue 30, it says Return of the Marvel Zombies. Well, if you remember Secret Wars, there was a whole little place that was nothing but the Marvel Zombies, and they had to survive. I don't mean Secret Wars 2, right? So the more recent of the Secret Wars, where all the Marvel Zombies existed. People had to survive there. And so all of these Avengers, our main Avengers teams, they are stuck fighting Marvel Zombies and trying to get through this to break through. At the end of it, towards the end, they reach their goal. They find what they're looking for, except they get there about 2 minutes too late, right? They get there just to realize that Murden is there. And of course, he does his whole villain speech. And, you know, they're like all of this, you got to remember, started off with Kang and Murden killing Kang and to a degree and then getting him in. But Murden is wearing a mask. Murden is kind of like Scarlet Cobra Commander to a degree. That's kind of the way he's drawn and looks like. And at the end of this issue, they reveal who Murden actually is. And I'm not going to spoil that for you because it is kind of a big deal, but it's got deep roots in Marvel history. So it's an interesting loop back around of really cool conceptualization, really reminding you this is a connected universe. You know, we always say, oh, these events end up not mattering at all until you get some good fun writers who are like, no, I can use this stuff and put it in my sandbox and play with it. Things like Secret Wars 2, things like Avengers No Road Home. We see a couple other nods to these other big events. And he's playing with them, bringing them in, and it's on issue 30. So it's had a good run. I don't know how long he's going to end up going, but this is fun. This is the costuming is great. Karami is an excellent artist. I absolutely love some of those images that he drew. He's got a fantastic line. It's a little bit modern house style, right? Like you can tell he's that Karami has looked at some of the better art that we've seen for Marvel for the past few years. It's kind of emulating that, but he's got his own flair to it. I enjoy the way he draws Storm. I enjoy a hell of a lot the way he draws Scarlet Witch. She's got that big hair. Like it's not Perez curls, but like a modern take on Perez curls. I thought that was fantastic. So this is somebody who loves the Avengers. This is written by somebody who's got a deep roots in the history, who really likes playing with the shared universe of it all, who wants to remind you that this is connected, and who's just kind of telling a straightforward team hero story. I really, really like this. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I encourage you to go pick it up. They're all quick reads. It's not going to be something that you've got to pour over 15 times. It is kind of just comfort food as far as superhero comics go. And I don't mind that. I don't mind that a bit. So this is fun comics. Go check this out. Avengers. There's just the whole run is good. Check it out.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I did have a question. So, like, do they?
I bailed early. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
No,
that's fair.
Yeah. So I don't read a lot of non X-Men Marvel comics, and the one thing that I've missed a lot, and it's just a modern thing. Modern comics just kind of don't really do this as much anymore, but because he makes a lot of references to historical events, to past crossover events, to past Marvel events, is there a lot of those little editorial C issue blank blank?
There's not, and I wish there's not. I wish there was. I love those. That's one of my favorite one of my favorite series of all time, Marvel Comics Presents. It's full of those little editor notes. My bread and butter with the Avengers is Volume 3, which is the Busiek Perez, again, full of editor's notes. I wish they did a better job of that, right? Of showing you kind of what they were talking about. They do not, unfortunately. Yeah. There's a little bit of it, but not a whole lot.
I think that the last time I've seen it recently was Chris Claremont in his Wolverine Kitty Pryde series. He did do a bunch of those little editorial notes, but it was him, not the editor. It was essentially, he added some, little asterisks like, see, essentially stuff I wrote in 1987. See, something I wrote in like just those issues.
There's one or
which
two,
is nice.
Yeah, there are, and especially when they're going back for a long time. There's one or two in this as I was kind of flipping through, but it's more like see Avengers 7 from this run, right? So it's more recent. I got caught up on, which I don't know if anybody's talking about this, so I won't spoil it, but I got caught up on Birds of Prey this morning at the gym on the bike. because I read comics while I ride the bike, and they do the same thing. There's actually a lot of editorial notes in that, but they're all from like, hey, see Birds of Prey #7, like remind you what part of this series. And I think again that is a symptom or an affect of it is being written for trade. It is being written to be a thing, and they're like, hey, this is all going to be in there. If you get to this chapter, reminder, go back to, flip back over here if you figured out what that was going on. They're not going to go tell you to go look through another omnibus, right? And so I think that's part of why that is.
It's such a missed. It's a lost opportunity there because even if you're thinking, well, a lot of stuff is written for trade, there's a reason there to sign up to the digital, to get a digital membership there, so you can actually go back and read some of these issues, single issues. Because that's back in the 80s and 90s and whatnot, when they referred to something from 1972 or 1960 something or other, like those were hard to find. You couldn't just go walk over to even the library or anything and just say like, oh, do you have issue whatever I can read?
Sometimes they were ridiculous. Like, there's an issue of All-Star Squadron where it says see All-Star Comics #4.
It's like, who's going to be able to? I mean, but now you can. Now you can do that. Like, this is the perfect.
That's somebody with
the perfect time to start.
Makes notes and goes and finds that at a con.
Exactly. It's like, okay, well, I got to get that issue so I can figure out what they meant. But now you can do that. So this is like this time period, like this era is perfect for having all of those editorial notes and references and being able to point those out for people who want to find those, who want to seek them out and be able to read them, not just, pull up the Wikipedia page and say, okay, let's scroll until I find something that seems relevant. So, but maybe someday somebody will want to bring that back, either out of nostalgia or use and purpose.
They do every once in a while. It is few and far between, but sometimes you will find that in modern books where you've got a fun writer who kind of knows and is pulling from a lot of history, and they'll do that there. It's fun when it happens.
It is, and you notice it when it happens now a lot more. So,
all right.
Well, who's next? Who wants to go now?
Me, and I've got another Marvel.
Ooh.
So
ideas all over the place.
When I got back into reading comics, the first Marvel series that I fell in love with was the J. Michael Straczynski written, and at least for a time, the John Romita drawn Amazing Spider-Man. And that period of time was when Peter was married to Mary Jane and was with the two of them, and with the ups and downs in Mary Jane's acting and modeling career, were still living with Aunt May, and they formed this really cool 3-person family. There were some great stories. It was the first time that Aunt May realized that Peter was Spider-Man. She had thought he was gay. At one point, that all the subterfuge was because of that, and she wanted to have a conversation about that with him. And it was 7 years. It was a 7-year run, and we went with that. We went through 9/11. We went through Civil War. We went with the post-Civil War situation that he was involved with, that actually found that found Peter, Mary Jane, and May living in Avengers Mansion. May develops very close relationships with Steve Rogers, who's actually, a little closer to her own age, and with Jarvis, and with the public reveal that Peter was Spider-Man in Civil War, that led to a lot of complicated in situations, which led to the Back in Black storyline, where Peter resumed using the black costume, though not a symbiote at that point. And that has my favorite Peter Parker moment of all time in that storyline, when he threatens the Kingpin in jail that's my favorite Peter Parker moment of all time. It also established that Peter has, developed ties with Tony Stark, and that's when we saw the first armor-ish spider costumes for a time. That came to an end with the One More Day storyline, and JMS was not very happy about being involved in that, and actually tried to get an Alan Smithy credit on the last issue because he felt so much of it was rewritten that it wasn't his own work. So he didn't leave the character on very friendly terms of writing the character. He eventually started working with Marvel again in the past, but he's never touched Spider-Man until now. And like I said, I have such a great affection for that time period. It was the first time since the 70s that I read Spider-Man regularly. And what we have now is we have him returning to the character, but it's a little different. So, Steve, if you have the graphic that you can put up for people that are watching our episode, this is the cover to Amazing Spider-Man Torn. And instead of picking up where he essentially left off, with Peter and Mary Jane's marriage erased, what his original proposal was, if that was going to be a lead up to it, was to go through periods of Peter's life and career in the past and show pivotal moments where if he and Mary Jane had not gotten together, things would have been different. So when we had the Brand New Day thing, all of a sudden Harry was back to life and stuff. But it wouldn't be explained for a very long time. So this kind of picks up on those threads. So we don't see a married Mary Jane and Peter, but we do see Peter back at Empire State University in his early days as a college student. Steve, if you can go to the first graphic, the artist on this is Pere Perez, and the action scenes are great. He starts off the issue battling Sandman. There's a lot of great Peter wit here, saying you're the only villain I know that punches a building. What's up with that? And if you go to the next page here, it very quickly transfers over to his personal life. And he has not dated Gwen at this point in time. She's a friend. She's actually gone on a few dates with Harry, and Gwen invites Peter and MJ to a beach weekend. And as they call it, the beach thing, and they keep calling it the thing throughout the story. This is where I thought that Perez's art went a little bit south. Some of the facial expressions when it is the civilian identities are a little goofy. That's my only criticism. So while they're at Empire State, there's a mysterious woman named Evangeline. And she wants to go into, here we go with antiquity again, into the antique book section. And as that's going on, there's, again, Peter does not have a simple life. There's a situation over in New Jersey that there's terrorists taking over a bank. He can't swing to New Jersey, so he has to get on the PATH train. So as Spider-Man, and he picked up a hot dog on the way. So there's a bunch of people just looking at him while he's sitting in a PATH train car eating a hot dog so he can get over to where this is. They didn't reveal how he came back, but I'm sure it was just as comical as that. And then there's some really lovely moments on the beach of four friends that are talking about their future, and just some absolutely heartbreaking dialogue from Gwen saying that she wants to live to at least 80 years old, and she wants to have had her life amount to something and to be known for having done something special. And with if you know her character's history, that just isn't in the cards for her. Some really nice dialogue here. But to go back to Empire State University, this woman Evangeline had actually killed two people to get possession of a book. And
fair.
I don't know if the book is the Darkhold they don't really get into it. Doesn't look like it, but it's certainly in that wheelhouse, because when she accidentally opens the book, she turns into a demon. And that's where we leave at the end of the first story, of the first issue. And it was just so nice, because like I have not been reading Spider-Man since Slott left, and Slott kind of overstayed his welcome, and I think even he would say that.
Yeah.
Through the runs of Superior and then the later run and stuff. I mean, some of it's golden, but sometimes there's a point where you really should take a bow while the audience still wants it. And I haven't read Spider-Man regularly since, and I think that's one of the reasons that I've loved Ultimate Spider-Man by Hickman so much, because it's this wonderful remix of things. Oh, Rom just came flying off this house. Get back there, honey. It was a really interesting way of somebody that knows this character inside out to revisit him. And when I first opened the few pages, I thought, come on, I want the family, I want the Parkers, I want that dynamic, I want and it wasn't all roses during that time. There were financial troubles. There were Peter and Mary had almost a separation during that time, but it was very real stories. And whatever nonsense was going on with Ezekiel and all that shit. I'm sorry, I should phrase it in a different parlance than all that shit, but there were very Spider-Man-y big developments during that time. And when I first opened it, it's like, come on, this is younger Peter. I don't want to read this. And 3 or 4 pages in, I changed my mind, and I thought, hey, it's still the JMS Peter. It's that voice. It's just at an earlier point in his life. And I think this is 5 issues. I think I read that it was 5 issues, but very happy to have that. And happy to have like a regular Spider-Man book to read. I haven't had that in a long time. So.
Yeah. And it seems like, and it doesn't surprise me with JMS, but one of my favorite things when Spider-Man is done right, it reminds like the whole hot dog on the train thing, right? Like, it reminds you that this is a city. Like, this is not. And that's what that's what I love about Spider-Man. Again, the best Spider-Man stories. Yes, Spider-Man has super strength and is not a quote unquote street level hero, but he's a street level hero, right? He gets down and reminds you that he's on the streets in the middle of this city, riding the train, just knowing where the good shawarma is, reminds you that this is deep in the heart of a metropolis. And I think in the city is a character, and I think that's needed in that story.
Yeah. Right. I mean, Marvel Team Up was the perfect vehicle for Spider-Man, because like you said, I think a good way of putting it is Peter's street level, but Spider-Man isn't. And of somebody that having that foot where, hey, he can hang out with Moon Knight and do some gritty shit, and then in the next issue it's with Red Sonja or some shit. It literally was. And I was nostalgic for what for a period of this character that I really adored. And I do think that writing is up with the best of Jeff Johns from that period as well. This is some really good conventional superhero storytelling. But I think, very quickly I was won over of, not rehashing something and just taking it from an earlier point in time and, still, that voice again.
Yeah.
So good.
That's good. Kind of a cool concept that we get from, having 80 years of a lot of these characters. For a lot of you can be nostalgic for an era of a character. We should do something like that one day. Just talk about the, like in this case, it's this era of, it's not Spider-Man in general, but it's this era of Spider-Man that you're nostalgic for. And what other, periods of.
Well, I think a lot of that is like, with me personally, like, I was out on my own for really the first time during that period. Even though I lived in apartments, my dad was still like 10 minutes away, and this would have coincided with the first time that I lived in New York City, and just a bunch of things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we covered Marvel. Let's do the other big two. Steve, you have a DC book.
I do have a DC book. So, and it's not an absolute one, because I've been covering a lot of those absolute books, and they're still good. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm still excited to read those, especially now that Absolute Manhunter is coming back for a new story arc, starting with an issue 7. I think that comes out in January, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a top 10 book that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, originally it was only going to be a 6-issue mini, but because it was so popular, they made it a maxi. So we'll see if it goes beyond that. But I'm excited to read all of the Absolute books. I think the only one that's kind of like at the bottom of the pile is Absolute Flash. And it's not because it's a bad book. It's just, everything else is that much more exciting for me. But sometimes I got to go back to like just the regular DC and see what's going on. Not in the all in crazy, especially now with KO going on. There's parts of the DC universe that are a little bit quieter and a little bit more, I'd say a little bit more personal. So they tell some personal stories that aren't world shattering, cosmic in nature or cross-dimensional or anything. But they're stories about characters who may feel themselves extremely small in their world, but the way that the storytellers handle them is quite exciting and a lot of fun. And I'm referring to the series Gotham Academy. Now, Gotham Academy first came out, I think it was towards the tail end of New 52. And it was a series that was created by Brendan Fletcher and Becky Cloonan and Carl Kerschel. Just a story, a pretty small story that was in Batman's universe, like Batman's, orbit, of a particular girl, Olive Silverlock, who is attending Gotham Academy, which is a private boarding school in Gotham for mostly rich kids.
Yeah. And Bruce's alma mater. That's very
exactly. Yeah. So Bruce, not just Bruce, but everybody, the Cobblepots were in there. Like anybody who's anybody in Gotham society has been there and has family or relatives that are currently attending. And, very interesting story. Yes, it tied into Batman. Yes, it tied into, some of the major villains, all made appearances or cameos. You had Bookworm, who was actually teaching at the school. You had, the Hunter, I believe, who's the headmaster. But there's a lot of other cameos that would pop up in telling what's essentially a very small insular story about these characters and about these kids. And there were 2 main series. You had the first original series, and then you had Gotham Academy second semester that picked up after the first series, the first volume, and a couple other one-shots. Well, this is a 6-issue miniseries called Gotham Academy First Year, and it goes back in time a little bit and gives us the story of how Olive came to Gotham Academy in the first place. And we had some flashbacks in the first 2 books, in the first 2 series. So we kind of had, bits and pieces, little puzzle pieces of what was going on. She's the daughter of Calamity, who is I would say a Batman villain by circumstance rather than by choice. Essentially, Calamity has severe mental issues, as well as having powers that are really hard to control, powers of fire, almost in that she kind of gives in to a demon self. So I believe she does suffer from, bipolar or schizophrenia. And Olive had to grow up with that. Olive was, she was trying to be like in many situations where you have a child who's having to grow up really fast to take care of the parent because the parent unfortunately can't take care of herself, and in this case also happens to be a supervillain. She had a lot of resentment for Batman that we had in the first couple of books. And we're kind of wondering where that comes from. Not just, well, I guess her mom's a supervillain, so she just learns to hate Batman because, well, Batman's the bad guy. In this issue, we do get to see in more detail what happened in that fateful night where she actually was taken by Batman away from her mother. And Calamity herself was then captured and taken to Arkham Asylum. And in it, we see Bruce Wayne taking her over to, there we go, if I can find a picture of it. Unfortunately, I don't think I can. But in any case, he takes her to the school as a way to not just have a place for her to stay, but have a place where she can get a future for herself. And in this issue, we actually see her in the first couple of days of school. She's been living at the dorms, and basically has been the only kid, period, who's been there, and she's had it to herself. But she still has so much social anxiety, so much fear of normal people, because she really hasn't grown up around that. So this is her essentially. If you are watching, she's hiding under the bed in the dorm. For her roommate's appearance. Lucy Hunt is this character, and again, we're reintroduced to a lot of the characters from the other series as Olive's first experiences and first meeting them. And Lucy seems like she's a spoiled rich brat. She's horrible. She's terrible. But when she actually meets Olive, she's pretty friendly, which I think shocks Olive because she's not expecting that. She's just like, these are all rich, stuck-up snobs. But this girl who is like hoping that she was going to be living alone this semester and now has a poor unfortunate roommate is actually kind of cool about it. Like, she's actually pretty nice. So I think that was kind of a nice touch. But of course she's overwhelmed more or less by the amount of people that she now has to meet and all sorts of things that are going on in the orientation. So she and Lucy and several of the other new students are all considered juniors. It's their first year. And they are all assigned mentors from the next year girls. The lowers is what they call them. And unfortunately, Olive she's the last to be picked, and she's not picked by anybody who really likes her. So she's kind of kicking around, following after them, feeling bad for herself, getting made fun of by some of the other girls for just being, out of place and being poor. And she's finally introduced to another major character from the series, and that is Kyle Mizuguchi, who in this book, in this 6-issue series, we'll see how they became friends, and then, of course, more than friends. To see their actual relationship, because at the beginning of if we go all the way back to the first series, she and Kyle have broken up. Yeah. Kyle is also the older brother to Maps Mizuguchi, who becomes Olive's sidekick, but Maps also is fun because she tries to date Damian Wayne. She thinks Robin's really hot. And becomes a pivotal character in the Robins series and a bunch of other things. She's made a lot of appearances, but this is her older brother. This is before Maps even comes to school. Yeah. So there's
also a future version of the character that.
Oh yeah, there's so much. This is such a great series, and I think the original series was so great because it introduced us to people that are not overtly powered. They're not actual heroes. These are students, and they have their own mysteries, and they have their own interpersonal conflicts that we want to follow. So there's something very CW about this.
Yeah, but it's also very Gotham. Gotham is a character running through this, and even though they're on the grounds of a very nice prep school, there's still a lot of darkness there.
Oh yeah, well there's there's all these mysteries that are tied to, because like we had said, every family in Gotham, every important wealthy citizen has at some point gone to this school, and their families have these long histories, and they have buildings on the grounds that were built by the Cobblepots, that were built by the Canes, that were built by other people, throughout the history. And there's a lot of mysteries to be uncovered, and some of them are supernatural in nature, some of them are pretty mundane, some of them are a little bit dangerous. And these kids, led by not necessarily Olive's not necessarily a leader, but she seems to find herself in the middle of a lot of these things, these situations. They find a way to uncover the secret, to figure out who's doing what, to solve dangerous mysteries. But this miniseries is setting itself up to be the start of all of that, because we're really interested in how Olive came to be there, and how she got to know all these people that become pivotal characters in the original series and second semester. And I love these characters. I'm just so happy to get to revisit them, because they're fun. They're fun characters. I can't wait until Palm makes more of an appearance. She kind of has like a quick one panel cameo here, where she's kind of like poo-pooing Olive and calling her Wednesday Addams, because she's so glum. But it's just really great. And I think Carl Kerschel, even though he's not doing the art,
not doing the art, but he is writing. He is
writing with Becky and with Brandon. Brendan Fletcher actually was doing this particular issue's script. The art here is by Marco Ferrari, but again, established characters by Carl Kerschel.
It felt very it felt very Carl Kerschel.
Absolutely. Like, he keeps the designs the same. He really has that same feel to it. So I think they did a great job in kind of getting the continuity to flow through, even though this is essentially a prequel. You also have Ava de la Cruz on colors, and colors are gorgeous as always when it comes to expect.
The fire sequences. Oh my god, those are so well done.
Oh, the designs on that, and then of course letters by Steve Wantz. But it's just I am always happy to read a Gotham Academy book, and it's really great to kind of go back to the beginning and see how it all started. And of course, it's being handled by the original creators as well. So like, they're writing the story, they're writing the script, they're involved.
Yeah, I thought, like, I did read this too. I thought, like Spider-Man Torn, it was very wise idea to pick up these characters again at an earlier point. And I think, one of the things I really liked was, especially when you're younger, I mean, think of how many times you had, like, you like stayed friends with an ex for a long time. And it's really nice to see Kyle's relationship with Olive here blossoming. And also, kind of nice to see it without the complication of maps, to be honest.
True.
Maps is a lot, but she's a lot.
Maps is a lot. And because she gets introduced in the original series, which takes place, I guess, in the second year, Olive's second year.
And Olive,
she does add.
Olive in the main series and then the second semester, she's much more confident. Like you said, she's not necessarily like a born leader, but there is a confidence about seeing stuff through, and it's nice that we're going to see how that germinated. It's nice.
She becomes somebody that people gravitate towards. Whereas now,
I really like seeing the new characters. It also makes me wonder, like, why wasn't Lucy there later? That worries me a little bit, because I took an instant liking to her. I basically liked all of Gotham Academy. I was a little bit I thought stuff went a little bit south with the Lumberjanes crossover, not so much because of the story, but because of the art, because it was very difficult to tell characters apart.
I remember that. That was not that it was bad, but again, it
was frustrating, since I don't know Lumberjanes that well, and it would have been nice to, not keep notes as you were reading it,
right? Who are these other 10 characters that I'm now being introduced?
It was really nice for a series that I basically forgot about, to revisit. And it was, stuff came flooding back as soon as Kyle said he was a tennis ace. I was like, oh, that's Kyle, so.
Kyle.
It was Kyle. Yeah, so it was nice seeing them again. And also, like you said, because it's not Kerschel's art, they're a little different, and
right.
And I think that helps when you're doing characters who just, I mean, let's face it, when you're 14 to 15, that's a huge
difference. And that's exactly how I feel here. Like, I mean, these are clearly younger versions. I mean, you're looking at teenagers, but like this is definitely like the 13-year-old Olive instead of the 14-year-old Olive, or the 14 instead of the 15. But yeah, I mean, this is great. I mean, if you haven't read the the original
Gotham you're coming up series, on the ground floor too. In
absolutely. I mean, you get the prequel series. It gives you all the groundwork without really having all the baggage. But for those of us who have read it, there's some interesting little things like, oh, hey, he's making appearance. I know what happens to them. But it's good. I recommend it. Definitely check it out. 6 issues, not bad at all.
Yep. Okay, so that wraps up our big 2 sequences. Steve, I don't know if you want to retain the mic. I think maybe it might be better later to wrap up spooky season with your selection. But Caleb, why don't we just throw it back to you to have you wax poetic about whatever book you have.
I will do so. So the other book I brought tonight is a book from Oni Press, and they published, and I picked this book up solely from knowing the artist's name, right? So this book is called Out of Alcatraz. It's written by Christopher Cantwell, which would have been enough to get me to get the book anyway, because I like Cantwell a lot. But it's painted by Tyler Crook. Tyler Crook is an instant buy for me. If Tyler Crook's name is on the title, I will pick it up and take it home. And just my love of Harrow County, everything that Tyler has done is fantastic. But this is their new kind of. I have the hardcover version of this, but it's a 5-issue crime thriller series that it takes place in either the late 50s or the early 60s. Let me see if it actually has a date on here, because I do not remember reading the date on there. But it takes place where in this era where the Alcatraz, right? Alcatraz prison was just the place, it was the place that we all hear about now, right? It's the place that's inescapable. It is a horrible place to be. It's where the worst prisoners are, or anything like that. And the title doesn't, the title makes you think that Alcatraz plays more of a role in the story than what it does, because it really doesn't play a huge role in the story other than to be the setting. But what the story is really about, it is about these guys who escape from Alcatraz, right? The story opens up with Frank Morris and Clarence Anglin, who are coming up on the shore, and they have done the impossible, right? What started off as actually 3 or 4 people who were supposed to get out of the prison island together, they're the only 2 that have made the escape. And now they've made it. Unfortunately, Frank's brother John was supposed to be there with him, and they don't know what happened to John. He capsized in the boat, the makeshift boat that they'd made. Then he just didn't make it. So you have this character who is just distraught because he's lost his brother, but they were in prison together, and now they were supposed to get out, and he's gone. They get to this island, and you start to realize there's a plan here, right? It's because they're being led to a place, and about the time you start to get comfortable with the 2 characters, it shifts, and it starts to show you this woman who is, again, very late 50s, mid 60s dress, and she's going into a bank, and she's getting to a safety deposit box, and she has to have a code word to get in there. And when she opens it up, there's money and a gun. So it's like, okay, we've got criminals escaping from Alcatraz. Now we've got a strange woman go in there and get money and a gun. But interestingly enough, a comment is made when she is going through the bank something about working for them, and it makes you wonder what exactly it's talking about, because the woman who makes the comment is an African American woman, and you're like, well, she just gotten to the bank, and now this African American woman's making this kind of snide, snarky comment. What is it about? And we'll put a pin in that. We'll come back to it later. Obviously, when there's a breakout in Alcatraz, it's big doings. Like now, there's people everywhere. The sirens have gone off, and now they're bringing in the FBI and the Bureau and the marshals and all of these things. And two of the characters that they bring in together are both police officers to some degree. One of them's name is Cy, and the other one is Bob. And you introduce to these characters where Cy is having a glass of wine in his bathrobe at the end of the night, and Frank or Bob calls him and was just kind of talking about it. And you start to realize that there's a really close relationship between these guys. And they're talking about maybe meeting up and figuring out how they can solve the crime. It's kind of an excuse for them to get together and be around each other because they're kind of in a couple. They're in a relationship, and they're closeted, but they want a better life. And you can kind of tell as they're talking on the phone together, they're looking at there's just an intimacy there, but it's not revealed at first. That kind of sets the scene for our characters, and where it goes from there. What you find out is that the two escapees, they are part of a plan, and they are linked up with the woman who had gone into the safety deposit box. And she is working for essentially, we don't know if it's the mafia, but she is working for an organization that actually operates out of Canada. And for every person that she brings them, she kind of leads them to a different life. And it's people from all walks of life, but they find a way to contact these folks. And for 5 years of essentially indentured servitude in Canada at a farm, you get a brand new life. You get to, whatever you were before is gone. They'll get you the papers that you need to be a new person. And this woman, and I'm purposely not saying her name because she doesn't say her name throughout the entire book. She won't tell these folks what her name is and who she is. She's very aloof. But she gets $1,000 a head for every person, every man that she brings and can meet up with the handlers to take these folks to the farm up in northern Canada. That's a lot of money. And so she's got a very deep interest staked in these people and getting them to the drop-off point and where they need to be. And of course, these are not the people that you can trust, right? These are not the people who are good at following orders and good at following plans. They are not the smartest of criminals, so to speak. And so they mess up. One of them goes in, I think it's Frank, goes into town when he's not supposed to, and goes to a bar and buys a bunch of candy and some marbles just because he wants to get out, and gets spotted. The other guy goes and gets him and pulls him back in and takes him back, but he's also getting cabin fever because he's out and free for the first time. So he sneaks out to a bar and has a drink and kind of gets clocked, so to speak, by an old man who kind of comes off as a little bit like Beverly Leslie in Will and Grace, like the big cowboy hat, and is very very, very old gay, pretending, my business partner, Benji. But something happens with them where the guy's like, I know who you are, and I'm going to blackmail you. And he's like, no, you're not. So he kills the dude in an alley. Like, so now we've got bodies dropping. We've got people getting spotted. It's the worst case scenario, you would think. Throw in an extra wrinkle. Our brother, the long lost guy thought drowned, shows back up, very much alive and pissed. He is convinced that his brother, he's convinced that Frank and Clarence have double crossed him and meant to knock him off for some reason, right? For, to get out, and, he doesn't really know why, because there's no secret stash of money anywhere, but he's convinced that they sold him out. This leads to bad doings because he basically tracks them down after going on his own little killing spree, tracks these people down and kind of hijacks their plans, and is going to, just not let them get away with what they were doing. these are all desperate men to some degree, right? And women, desperate men and women to some degree who were not, at least we're not led to believe, were not in prison because they were killers. They were not good people, but the scenario and the conditions that they find themselves in turns them into the worst versions of themselves, to where they do hurt people. But it also, in a weird way, it shows them to be very human. It shows them to be willing to learn and to some degree have empathy in their, because at the end of the day, they're all people trying to find freedom, whether or not they are these escaped prisoners or these law enforcement officers who are closeted gay men in a relationship who are longing and dreaming of a life together in a place that they could never have or don't think could be a reality, or a woman who is, basically a coyote as part of a criminal element that you come to find out is actually a white passing black woman, which is why the woman at the bank, the African-American woman, made the snarky comments about working for them and basically gave her the "they're not going to ever pick you" speech, because she's a white passing black woman. There's an undertone of civil rights, of the civil rights era in here, but it's not overt. And I thought that was really, really well done. There's not a lot of action in this book. There's some, but not a lot. There's a lot of talking. It's a very quiet book. It's a book about quiet moments. Now, when it pops off hard. And Tyler Crook's art does a really good job of showing that. But in a lot of ways, this is a very, it had all the hallmarks to me of, the pacing and the quietude of, like maybe a drawn and quarterly book, or maybe a Fantagraphics book, something like a memoir. It wasn't big and flashy. It's not a superhero book. It is a crime book, but it's a crime book in the sense of, it's these moments of developing character and who these people are with the context and the backdrop of what they've done and what they are capable of. And I thought that was an interesting dynamic. I know some people, I've actually seen this, people on the interwebs talk about that and say, hey, look, Tyler Crook, you've got this, A-level artist. Why would you not give him more to work with? But I think he's working with a lot. He's just telling a different type of story with a different type of energy. And I think he wanted to tell this story, and he wanted to tell something that was impactful, but in a low impact kind of way. It's just kind of this, this thread all along, but he really makes the important moments shine. The watercolor work he does here is just outstanding. Ultimately, the book, the way it ends, I won't spoil everything, but it doesn't end in the way that you might think it would, or at least it doesn't end in the way that the characters that you start off with that you think are going to follow through all through the story. These, at the end of the day, they become violent men. And, there's a saying about violent men who meet violent ends. And I think that comes into play here. But at the end of the day, everybody in this book is willing to risk it all. And they are risking it all. And it works out well for some, does not work out well for everyone else. But wonderful hardback collection that you can get, well done, well put up. You can never get tired of looking at Tyler Crook's art. It just is impossible to do. I thoroughly encourage you to go reach out this book. It's a fun crime story, lots of intrigue, and if that's what you're in the mood for, this will treat you really well. Get you a glass of wine, sit down, and pour over this. It's a good time.
Sounds good. I mean, when you were saying like it looks like a drawn quarterly, absolutely, and a lot of that does have to do with Tyler Crook. I mean, just his art style anyway, just lends a lot to an indie feel. Like you're getting a pretty special book when you're picking that up and see that kind of art. But this, I mean, the storyline is very, it's realistic in a way that could be a quiet indie film. This is yeah, I mean, this sounds like something that would be kind of up my alley, or it could have actually been a true story. But
it kind of has a No Country for Old Men, kind of trudge through it, like that's kind of the pacing that it has. And it's interesting because I'm looking back, I've got I've got a piece of Tyler Crook's art from the Colonel Weird book that he did on my wall, and it is sci-fi, and it is insane. And there's like a bug creature with eyes that is attacking a spaceman with a laser. But then he's drawing you this, this very, officers with the high and tight, right? The suit and tie, the gritty, almost To Kill a Mockingbird, dress that was happening with them. And he's a very talented man who can do very, very, very many wonderful things with watercolors. And he has a palette that just doesn't stop. So cool. I really dug this. I'm going to try to pick up a page from this. This is not, again, blowing up the top lists. I'm imagining I'll be able to pull a page from this, not cheap, but at a pretty fair price. And there, because it is a queer story, and there are some very quiet queer moments in this between these men. I like those types of pages, so I really want to try to get one of those pages where it's just the two men who are having their moment.
Nice. Yeah.
All right, Steve, leave us on a spooky note.
Okay, it's spooky enough. It's spooky and crimey, and funny enough, EC Comics, of course, is being put out by Oni Press, and I do have to say, Christopher Cantwell has a story in this particular one shot. So I read all the EC stuff that comes out, everything that Oni is putting out, from Cruel Universe to Catacombs of Torment. Blood, the recent, sort of interesting miniseries that they had, featuring one of the characters from a previous horror compilation. Each year they do at least one shot. This is one of 2 one-shots that we'll be getting this year, and that is the one shot called Outlaw Showdown. And as you can tell, it is not a genre that I talk about very often, Western. There aren't that many Western, true Western comics. I know, Caleb, you have talked about some in the past. We've got a couple that have come and gone. I know, let's see, Sixth Gun is probably one that I love, but I haven't talked about in a long time. They're few and far between. It's not exactly a very common genre these days, but back in the 50s it was. And so Outlaw Showdown is kind of a pastiche of, Two-Fisted Tales and some of the other cowboy Western related comic series that came out back then. So in this compilation, you have 4 main stories, and then you have a reprint. And the 4 main stories, you've got Cool Water, that's written by John Arcudi, with art by Sebastian Cabral and Lee Luffridge on colors. You've got some amazing, covers here that you can get. I think there's a total of about 6 or 7, different variants that you can get. But Cool Water, to start it off, is a really good choice because it's very Western. It involves the story of Rand Keyes, who here is basically the first black U.S. Marshal riding through what he deigns as Indian territory, which was sort of reservation land of a sort, or an early version of reservation land, where a lot of native groups and tribes had actually been forced to relocate at. And while he's there, he comes across bodies of Paiute villagers who have been slaughtered. And he picks up the little girl who's left alive. And the 2 of them follow the outlaws that were responsible for the slaughter. And, it's a pretty standard tale of 2 people, kind of thrown together in extreme circumstances. They're out in the desert. They're going down towards Mexico. So there's no water. Everything's really, really bleak. But so are the bandits. The bandits themselves, those outlaws, are also experiencing the same difficulty with the hot burning sun and the freezing cold nights. And this is where it takes a turn for the supernatural. And I won't spoil that story because, again, I want you guys to pick this up because this is wonderful. And it's definitely, even if you're not into Westerns, you're going to be into these. There's another story that's called The Cure. And this one's actually written by Ann Nocenti with art by David Lapham and or Lapham. David Lapham. There we go. I keep pronouncing it Lapham, but it's Lapham, who we talked about in the last episode. And also Nick Filardi on colors. And this one is kind of a tale of a snake oil salesman who's trying to pull one over on a small Western frontier town. And his sort of sidekick here, or captive, you're never really too sure exactly how they got thrown together. They come to town, they start selling all their snake oil, which is mostly just laudanum and other crap thrown into a liquid. While they're there, there's a two Chinese immigrants who run a general store, and they know this type of guy. They know he's just bad news, and they slyly work with his native sidekick to give him a lesson that he won't forget. Again, very cool, not supernatural, but perfectly in line with the twisty morality tales that you get in these types of books. And then of course you've got some beautiful art there. Look at those colors, super bright. You've also got another story. This is more of a ghost story called Fire in the Hole, written and drawn by Tony Moore, who's always a treat to see. Color in here is by Rico Renzi. And this one is more of a traditional haunting story where a certain foreman of a mine is haunted by not just the memories, but also what appears to be the corpses, the reanimated corpses of all the men who died in a mine explosion while he was in charge. And, he's turned his life around. He's so generous. He gives so much to the community and to the families who've lost people. But of course, he's harboring a really horrible secret that explains his guilt and the constant torment that he has from the spirits. So that's more of a traditional ghost story. And then of course you've got Pony Express, which I don't have images for here. That's the story by Christopher Cantwell with art by Dan McDade and colored by Michael Atea. And that one is just, it's a nameless Pony Express employee who's trying to get his way from Missouri all the way to California to deliver a very important message. And then finally, a reprint from Two-Fisted Tales number 20 from 1952 called, and this is a great title, Colt Single Action Army Revolver. And it's one of those great sort of, you follow the gun itself as it goes from owner to owner in all sorts of horrible circumstances. It starts with 6 bullets, ends with 1, back in the hands of the original owner. And, you know how these stories end. I don't really have to tell you how, but it's a clever little tale. And that one, of course, by Harvey Kurtzman and Jack Davis, 75 years ago, 70 years ago, still is a fascinating story to read. And that's why I've been really appreciating what they've done in the second wave of EC Comics, is by bringing those reprints back in, those old stories that are hard to come by unless you get the big treasury editions, and putting them side to side with more modern storytelling and modern art, just to kind of compare. And sometimes it's really fun. It's really fun to do that, to go from a very modern tale, modern style comic to very old, very 50s style comic. Loved it.
Did you know there's a TV series based on that story?
Have Gun Will Travel?
No, it's a series called Gun.
Yes, I have heard of that. Okay.
Yeah, in 1997, had some very big name directors that directed episodes like Ted Demme and Robert Altman. James Gandolfini's debut was in that series, but it cool. Follows the same thing of the gun over time and the different owners. Yep.
Yeah, this one was able to do that whole thing in I think 6 pages.
Yeah.
So that Gun sounds like a much more involved work of or anthology work, but I mean, it's such a great tale. I can see it being remade and made much larger. But yeah, I mean, all these stories are great. They're twisty. Some of them are spooky. Some of them not so much. But all of them really exciting to read, you know. And as always, you know, if it's an EC book, you know, it's a premium. You know, you're getting your money's worth for it. I'm just really happy that they're doing this. They are doing a Christmas special coming up. It's another suspense stories filled with winter tales of discontent and horror. So I'm looking forward to that next month, just in time for Christmas.
All right. Well, we're going to start heading towards the end of our show. And when we start this journey, our first stop towards the end is when we show off our Geek Gets stuff that's genre related that we've gotten in the last 14 days or so that we want to point out. And Steve, who sometimes doesn't have them, has one this week. So,
well, this one comes by way of my husband. He has been in Colorado working for the CU Boulder Opera, and the opera that they were doing this year, this season, was Dead Man Walking, and he was honored and had the pleasure of getting to listen to Sister Helen Prejean herself, who came to see the show because it is based on her book. And turns out that they have a graphic novel version of the original book available. It's Dead Man Walking. The art here is by Catherine Anyango Grunewald, who I wasn't too familiar with. She's a Swedish artist. And her work is kind of like, sketchy ink with a lot of watercolor. It's fascinating and extremely dynamic, very intriguing, the way that she draws figures, sometimes in shadow, sometimes not clearly, and sometimes in stark relief, and especially for a tale that's about the death penalty and people who are navigating that reality and the activism that went into trying to end it. So it's a very personal story, but very very well told. And this book, this copy, is signed by Sister Helen. So
awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
Okay, over to Caleb. Caleb, do you have some Geek Gets?
I have a Geek Get, and this is of the musical variety, and I am very, very excited to hold this in my hands. I've listened to it about 1 million times since it came out.
From your post, I figured, yeah.
The new album, Everybody Scream, by Florence and the Machine. Florence and the Machine, I love them. I love them absolutely. I have got most of their stuff. This album though, it is new. I'm very excited to have it. Legitimately though, this might be my new favorite album. This is from the second Everybody Scream starts. She does not quit pouring herself into this music. There's songs where she's calling people out, calling out other musicians who, have belittled her, diminished her, reduced her as just a female artist. There's one of her lines is, "It must be cool to be a guy and make boring music, but you're still my second favorite frontman, so don't worry about it." There's an edge to this, but there's also there's that usual sadness to her, and just her lyricism is absolutely wonderful. I said for a long time, I think Jason Isbell is probably the best lyricist that's working today. For my money, I'll disagree with you. I think you're wrong. It's Jason
I
Isbell.
So disagree with you on that.
That's fine. Okay. But she may have jumped up there with him on this one. There's some fantastic lyrics in this that are just it's poetry in action. So new album, Everybody Scream, Florence and the Machine. Go listen to it, commit it to memory, put it in your heart, where it belongs. And it's the hotness. It's great.
Okay, cool. I remembered I did have music gets at the last moment. One concert when we were talking about at the beginning of the show, stuff we did that I forgot to mention was I saw an in-store concert at my fave record store, Randy Now's Man Cave. It was Corey Glover, the lead singer of Living Color, And while I was there, I picked up a few things. This is the first new vinyl of the Police that I've gotten since 1983. And this is the soundtrack to their Around the World documentary. And there's also a DVD inside here of that documentary from the very late 70s. I think maybe even 80 was when that came out. I also picked up, and I've actually never seen this before, though I knew it existed. In the 70s, there was a sort of Monkees reunion where it was Mickey Dolenz and Davy Jones with the two guys who were one of the principal songwriting teams for the Monkees, Boyce and Hart, and they formed Dolenz Jones, Boyce and Hart, and they had a live album from Japan that was never released in the States, and I got a copy.
Nice.
Nice, yeah.
Dolenz Jones, Boyce and Hart. That is hard to say.
Boyce and Hart, the guys who sang them and the guys who wrote them.
That sounds like a law firm.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Yep. And there's an
call the law firm.
There's an absolutely terrible TV special that they filmed. It's so bad. Worth seeking out. But it did start Mickey. It really started Mickey on his journey towards being a TV director, that he was active for about 10 years, and that instead of performing. It's very difficult to get some new home videos these days, but one of the outlets I really like, Deep Discount, had a basically rummage sale on what was their existing Olive Films stock. Olive Films went out of business. I was able to get from DVD to Blu-ray upgrades for 4 Cary Grant films. So I got The Pride and the Passion, which is La Bamba, and Indiscreet, which isn't. There's a charm to this. And then we hit into the 60s with Cary Grant and Doris Day in That Touch of Mink, and Father Goose with Leslie Caron. So got those. And then lastly, I was monitoring Amazon for sales, and this did come up at a very low price, so I did get the Funko Pop of Batwoman, the Pride Funko Pop of that. So dem's me Geek Gets. Okay, well, we've hit our last stop on our journey, and that's the Woofs of the week. In the bear community, if you find a fellow attractive, you woof at him. And we do something very similar here, where we woof at something which is, likely comic book or comic book related, but it also may be a TV program or a film or charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener or viewer, may be interested in sampling. I'll start, as I always do, with Steve. Steve, what is your woof of the week?
My whip of the week goes to a recent release for people who've been watching film fests or attending Venice or Cannes or something. You've probably already seen it, but if you haven't, this is just made into, national release, and that is the film Begonia by Yorgos Lanthimos, starring Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons. And oh my God, these two on screen are magnetic. There are, Jesse Plemons plays a, small town guy who's a conspiracy theorist who decides to hatch a plan to kidnap Emma Stone, whose character runs a major pharmaceutical firm that he blames for essentially depopulating the bees, as well as lots of other things that are a little bit more personal to him, because he believes that she is an alien. And just the two of them interacting on screen is incredible. Emma Stone trying to keep it together while she's, chained to a mattress in a basement, and Jesse Plemons going from quietly seething to outright, violent bursts of energy is wonderful to behold. And of course, it's because it's Yorgos Lanthimos. You know that you cannot expect how this will end. So I can't give too much away. And just suffice to say, if you've seen any of his other films, things are going to get really weird really fast. So absolutely recommend this. Begonia with Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons.
Nice. All right, over to Caleb. Caleb, what is your Woof of the week?
Well, mine's a little bit more less weird, lighthearted, heavy calorie, and that is the Great British Bake Off, which wrapped up this week. I think it's already aired, in Britain. So be careful with your Google searches. But tomorrow, the final episode actually airs here, and this is one of the few TV shows, I should say reality shows. I don't know if that's the correct moniker or not, but it's one of the few ones that I actually watch and follow and absolutely love. And this has been a fantastic season. I've really enjoyed it. Just the different people that they've had on it, the spectrum of folks, the different stories, getting to know these bakers, seeing what they create. There's a lot of talent that goes into it. And yet again, I still think one of the things that gravitates me towards this show is it's not like, I guess American competition shows where people are cutthroat and they're putting each other down. Like, these folks will help each other. Well, now they are down to the final three, and two gay men and a young woman. And we will see, who wins. But I've really enjoyed it. There's been a lot of challenges, but it's been fun to get to know these folks. And it's a delight to watch this weekend and week out on Fridays when it debuts. So it's fun times. Go, if you aren't familiar with the show, go check it out. Even if baking is not your thing, because it's not my thing. Even if it's not your cup of tea, but you may just enjoy this for what it is. It's light, like I said, it's refreshing to watch this kind of reality show. So that's it. Check it out. And final episode of the season tomorrow. We're finding out who the winner is.
And you can catch that on Netflix. I think they have a lot of the past seasons.
They do.
Find as well.
There's like the first couple aren't on there, I don't think, but you can catch most of them on there. And it's the same thing each time. It's the same tone all the way through. It's funny. It's cooperative. It's just nice, and I like nice things right now.
Okay, it is nice to have nice things.
I like pretty things, and I like fancy things, and I like nice things.
It's kind. What I mean by it's kind. It is
it's very kind.
In terms of the competition shows, it's one of the friendlier ones because very often you'll see people helping each other out to get through the stuff, and you would never see that in an American show.
No,
I can't wait until they fail.
Yeah.
Not cutthroat. It's no. I want to. If I win, I want to win against the best competition possible. So if you need a hand, tell me. I'll come over and help you, and I want to see you succeed. I don't want to win because you messed up on something that you shouldn't have, or this, it's a kind show, even when people are going home. So
at some point I trailed off, but I was kind of, I was very vigilant in watching the season. At some point I trailed off, and Steve had gotten me into the Great Irish Bake Off.
Oh yeah,
with Panty, and yeah.
Well, and the Great Canadian Baking Show, which is the Canadian version of this, is also having a season concurrently running with this. They started a little bit later, so they have a few more episodes to go. So I've been putting it off now that I have seen the finale because it did air on Tuesday, but now I get to go and watch the Canadian one.
just for the sake of irony, I want the Canadians to be mean.
They're so not, though. It's so they're even nicer. They're even nicer.
That tracks. I just, like I said, for the sake of irony, that's what I want. I want them to be mean.
The ones that are like, oh, I stole her baking pans, or I turned her oven off while she wasn't looking. Like, I want that.
Yeah. Okay, for my Woof of the week, over the past few months, there's an artist that Steve and I discovered on Instagram named Jeremiah Styles, and his Instagram is the name of his artistic operation, Oakenthorn Artistry. And I got to the point where I have to pick up something from this guy, because the designs are so intricate and interesting. So I went to his Etsy store, but I was literally about to buy something, and then I found out he wrote a book. So I picked up The Pale Camp Flickerwick. So what is Camp Flickerwick? It's a summer camp where there's a group of 3 friends, Mike, Tommy, and Amber. They arrive at the camp, and it's a little creepy from the outset. And there is a creature out there named the Pale. And initially it was, basically just scratching and noises in the night, but then their encounters with the Pale take a much more serious turn. I'm about halfway through the book. I haven't finished it yet, but it's testament to how good this book is because a book came off the shelf and I jumped out of my skin like you wouldn't believe from the couch when that happened. There's a very timeless feel to this. For at least the first 4 chapters, there's really no anchor you have in terms of what time period this happened in. I was looking for references to, cell phones or something like that. There is a reference later to a Polaroid camera. So even that gives it a very wide range of time where this actually could fall. But in terms of, your classic summer camp situation where scary stories are told around a fire, turns out some of them are true. And I really enjoyed this. I can't wait to finish it. He is a natural storyteller, just as he is a natural artist. And again, please go to his site and see his stuff. It's really incredible stuff. And there he is. And there's Oakenthorn Artistry's logo. And very happy I ordered this book.
Yeah, and then there's him, and from the Oakenthorn, I believe it's at Oakenthorn Artistry,
right? And there is an Etsy store that you can access it through there.
But he does show a lot of videos of his process, which is kind of cool to get to see. He's done a few like larger installations and works a lot with wood and some other media, which is pretty neat. So.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Out of Ohio, and a very deep baritone voice, which is really cool.
And he also has a goose.
And there's a goose.
Gives him some trouble there at his property. So it's fun.
Yeah, definitely check him out. And this book was so worth the purchase. Especially because I didn't really have a lot of bandwidth to celebrate Spooky Month, and to at least get this, on the outskirts of it. Perfect. Yeah. And like I said, there was an action in the book. A book came off the shelf and I jumped like an 8-year-old girl. And that's got to be a testament to how good this is. So
excellent.
All right, so that's another episode of the Comic Book Bears. You can find us on most social media as Comic Book Bears. You can find us on Facebook, however, as Comic Book Bears Podcast. If you want to listen to us, you can do so through Apple Podcasts, through Spotify, and many of the other podcasting platforms. If you want to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. If you've joined us through Facebook Live or some of the other streaming options that are out there tonight, thank you. If you're watching us later on our YouTube channel, thank you. Please like and subscribe. So until next time, I'm Billy Z.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
If you're listening to the audio version, you're going to hear a woof and an explosion, and we'll be back in probably about 2 weeks. Take care, everyone.
Bye.